Buyers are already walking into your place thinking, oh, I bet you I can get this cheaper.
Yeah.
Sellers are looking at comps from a few months ago or a couple quarters ago thinking, yeah, I'm going to get yesterday's price. When buyers are already thinking, no, I'm going to get this at tomorrow's price. So buyers, let the offers fly. Sellers, if you're selling, you need to be extremely critical and considerate of your position in the market.
Somebody in the comments is going to be like, you just said the stats are bad. Now you're telling me to make offers. Yes. When everybody else is running away, it's the time for you to put in offers because you don't want to buy when we're telling you that the market's up 20%.
I've had a lot of people come across my desk the last 10 years in the business where, they're coming to us and thinking, real estate investor ideas, real estate investor strategies, but they just really need a good real estate retirement plan. And so I just like to remind people, like, are you buying and are you getting into real estate as a piece of the retirement and a little piece of the financial freedom? Or are you like, I need to make this my full-time career? You could go buy a duplex, triplex, or fourplex with residential A lending with 20% down right now, Adam. There's a dozen of them on the market right now that will be cash flow positive just with 20% down as is. If your market grows anywhere from 2, 3, 4% a year, let's call it 2 because that's what I run my numbers on, 2% appreciation a year. By the end of year 5, you got anywhere from 75 to 125 grand in equity just from that appreciation. No debt pay down, no cash savings, no savings from the job that you've kept because you're a good little worker. All right, we got 100 to 150 grand for a down payment for another property.
Welcome back to the Canadian Real Estate Channel. I'm Adam J.D. Martin, your host, and today I've got Zack from Zack Brittain Real Estate. We've got a wonderful discussion for you guys today. We're going to be zooming out, looking at the 10-year focus on Waterloo, looking at what the market's up to today, how that compares to the last 10 years. We're going to look at how we're comparing as well year to date, and then Zack's got some interesting perspective for us that I think we all should be thinking about, which is, are we really full-time investors or are we just trying to plan for a successful retirement? And what are those differences going to look like in terms of the strategies that we take on? And I hope you guys will stay to the end where we're going to talk about dinosaurs. So Zack, welcome back to the channel. Great to have you back.
Thank you. I'm holed up downstairs on the living room because in my old house, the upstairs is hot. Last week of June, and we are sweating down here in Kitchener-Waterloo. The only thing hot though, Adam, is the weather. The market, not so hot. I got in my slides a big spring market. Woof. We got May data to cover. I've already kind of sifted through some of the stuff we've seen in June. I'll sprinkle in some Zack notes on that. I got a shout out, Brad Marchand. I made a joke about the Leafs last video. The only thing down more than our market was the Leafs. Well, they're even further down because the Panthers went on to win the Stanley Cup. I'm a big hockey fan, and it was actually pretty exciting, just to see a team freaking dominate like the Florida Panthers. And then actually, we're recording this the day after the basketball finals were done too. I'm not a big basketball guy, but some really good games down the stretch. Sad that we're going to have pretty much no good sports for a little bit here, but such is life. We'll move on. But for the purpose of this video, Adam, if people are new, we're going to go market data first. So if you guys are just chiming in, I share market data on my investor hot list. There's a link in the description for that. I got it up next. If you just want like quick hits, I send out a weekly email for that. Plus I share deals. But if you guys want a little bit more commentary, first 5-10 minutes of this video, that's what we'll get through. And another really big thing that's come up, Adam, was I've had a lot of real estate investors reach out to me about, bigger, more complicated deals, whether it's infill projects, building, larger size multis, larger size burrs. And it kind of just got me thinking that a lot of those deals are great and they can be really profitable and they can be a lot of fun. But, sometimes I think people get lost in the world of internet advice when it comes to, where you fit in and what's the appropriate kind of deal for who you are and what you need. And so I just like to remind people, like, are you buying and are you getting into real estate as a piece of the retirement and a little piece of the financial freedom? Or are you like, I need to make this my full-time career? and a part of my long-term financial well-being. So we're going to kind of get into like the differences and like what I do. And at the end, I just shared Zach's business because like I'm a full-time real estate investor and I like how I've built my business and where my businesses are going may just be, if we lift the veil on that, maybe a good way for, those guys and girls that are viewing videos like this to see, oh, is that where I want to take it? Or is that a new way that I didn't know about? And does that make sense for really what they need? But if you guys like the videos, like we really appreciate, the support. We've gotten tons of interactions on YouTube and lots of people that reach out on Instagram and Facebook when you see our clips. I get lots of DMs, and that's really exciting. I'm glad I can connect with all of you. If you just want a little taste of Zach and kind of Fifth in real estate, Waterloo Region real estate, we send out a weekly email with deals and comments and data. Not at the depth that we share here on the videos, Adam, but just quick hits if you guys are, want to take a quick 5-minute break from work, or you got a couple minutes after the kids go to bed, you want to know what's going on in real estate in your area, hit us up on the Canadian Real Estate Channel Investor Hot List right here. I'm pretty sure Peter puts the link in the description for us. So now the goodies,
Definitely there.
not the goodies, but the goodies. Waterloo Region. I thought about making a sexy slide, getting some, kind of getting some animations, getting a little video clip going to really jazz this up, but there's really not a ton to jazz up. Numbers at them, they don't lie,
Yep.
and we are down. Now, we have been down, but and no trends have really changed. They've just become more exacerbated. They've become much more apparent here in Waterloo Region. Our average price for a detached is still 909,000. So most locals, the fact that there's even detached homes above a million here in Waterloo Region is still blowing their mind. But it's been like that for, probably about 6-7 years. And we had a huge run up where average price points were closer to, 1.1, 1.2 for detached homes. So a lot that goes into why those prices have gone up. But the really important thing to note is we're down 3.7% year over year. So we have lower interest rates, more inventory, and prices are down compared to the exact same time last year. And that's across every market segment.
Yep.
Now, you'll notice townhouses down 3.5%, semis down 6.7%. And that is a on purpose typo. Gondos, because they are gone, ladies and gentlemen. Nobody is touching these bad boys. It is killing me. I got a couple I'm trying to sell right now. We're making traction on them because our clients are realistic, but it's really that market is getting gutted the most in terms of inventory, how few sales there are, and kind of how much pain owners are feeling in that space. Now, I don't think we're going to get into why this is happening. We've mentioned this on every video for about the last 6 to 12 months, and some of the data we'll cover in the next few slides will get you up to speed. These are averages all over Waterloo Region. So if you have specific parts of the city, or if you have specific properties that you want another layer, we can do like a quick and dirty market analysis online and get you pretty much within 25 to 50 grand of what your place is worth without even seeing it, just doing some quick market research. If that's something you need, flip us a quick email. Like getting a starting point and some data behind your ideas is the best place to start. But hit a quick pause here if you want to take a look at the numbers. Otherwise, we're going on to sales volume because this and our next slide just go hand in hand, Adam. Sales volume is up in May compared to April, but we're still 26% lower than our 10-year average.
Dang.
So 10-year average is a really good starting point for this type of data because it will smooth out any crazy insane years or
Yeah.
quarters per se. But the big thing to note here is although our sales volume is up compared to April, sorry, not April of last year, that's on par with seasonal trends. So envision seasonal trends. What I mean by that is with the actual fall, winter, spring, summer seasons. You're going to get low activity in the fall or in the winter. You're going to get huge spike in activity in the spring, and then you're going to go down a little bit and level out through the summer, a little bit of a bump up in the fall. The volume of sales, the number of new listings, the pricing trends are following the seasonal trends a lot more closely now than they were compared to COVID or even pre-COVID when we had such a insanely low interest rate environment. Now, to summarize that, more listings, fewer buyers, economic and unemployment uncertainty is kind of holding consumers back. And we're really just getting a ton of hesitation. The note at the bottom there, though, too, condo volume is and inventory is the most severe gap. What I mean by that is the volume of new listings and the sales volume compared to the amount of inventory. That gap is the biggest compared to, say, freehold detached, right?
Yeah.
And that's why they're the gondos now. They're not condos, they're gondos. It's tricky. It's really,
They've
really
been
tricky.
getting beat up month after month on our update.
Pardon
Month
me?
after month. They've been getting beat up month after month on our update.
Oh
Like
yeah.
the condos have just been getting smoked in Waterloo.
Yeah. And like this isn't a personal attack on anybody that owns a condo, lives in a condo, or invests in condos, but we're in an open and a free market. Uh, unless they are the only option, they are the usually the least desirable compared to other options. Now, our markets are going to go through huge shifts in preference, in availability, in complexity, in accessibility of how quickly and easily and affordably you can get any type of deal. But the most accessible, the smallest, and the cheapest is the least desirable in any market unless you need a large volume of them. And we haven't needed a large volume of them until recently because the gap between what a freehold detached is and a condo is now so big that a condo is now attractive financially. So that was a lot, kind of really big generalizations. But and if you don't guys don't follow, hit us up in the comments or send me a direct message. But it is the least desirable asset right now in our market, and there's a ton of them. So it's very, very tricky to navigate those. Now, any of you young boys and girls going into college, just getting out, maybe restarting the life, who knows? You're looking at getting a property and you want to get started. It is not a terrible idea to look at condos right now. There's a ton of them available, and there may be motivated sellers where you can take advantage of the market conditions and get a sexy price. And truthfully, I'm not a condo guy. I but I've lived in apartments before. That's fine. But for where I'm at in my life now, I need more than that. But even if you only need something for a couple of years to level yourself up or to move up, like you can get a sexy condo in the low 400s. You can get a great deal between 3 and 450 right now in condos. You can live in a good area in a clean building, get some decent square footage, or get extra part. Like there's some stuff out there. So I'm just
Yeah.
saying, you guys are thinking, hey, maybe it's time to look at seeing if I can afford to buy a home at all. I'd be taking a quick sniff at the condo market.
Yep.
Quick sniff. Now inventory. The pain keeps on coming. The pain train, baby. Inventory. 2,200 listings available. We are
Dang.
up over 26% in total inventory across the board, right? Buyers, I'll keep it simple. It's a buyer's market, Adam. Call me up. You're buying, you should be looking. And then
Yeah.
sellers, buyers are forward pricing. I had to, Dr. Evil forward pricing this. What I mean by
Yep.
that is, all right, your neighbor sold for 800 grand in February. You're listing your place in July. You also want 800 grand. It's the exact same house. Well, July is a little bit different than February.
Yep.
Market's down a little bit, and buyers are thinking, oh, well, if I don't get a good deal in July, I'll just get a better deal in August. Because even if the market doesn't change in August, I'll have more choices between July and August. So there's a better likelihood that I'll find the perfect place at the same price. So buyers are already walking into your place thinking, oh, I bet you I can get this cheaper.
Yep.
Sellers are looking at comps from a few months ago or a couple quarters ago thinking, yeah, I'm going to get yesterday's price. When buyers are already thinking, no, I'm going to get this at tomorrow's price. So buyers, let the offers fly. Sellers, if you're selling, you need to be extremely critical and considerate of your position in the market.
Yep.
We've said it, I've said this that a million different ways, a million different times in different market segments, but like if I'm a buyer and I'm an investor, which I am, I'm letting the offers fly. I already got 2 places this year. Closing on one in a couple weeks. Pretty pumped about it. We're going to share more later. Not in this video, but another one. Like I'm buying. I'm buying all the time, but I'm really looking now, right? Because
Yeah.
even if I'm say I'm pricing 5 to 10% under what the price, what I think the property should go for in my offers to give myself a margin of safety to try and negotiate, to try and get better terms, whatever. Just round number sake. I'm gonna hit some of them. I'm gonna find a motivated seller where I can either get better price or better terms or both, right? Because what's gonna happen, Adam, is as our market has just been just dumped with inventory, there's gotta be out of 100 deals, there's gotta be 5 or 10 that need to sell.
Absolutely.
Now, I'm not saying take advantage of a sweet old lady. I'm saying take advantage of the open market and the conditions that we are currently in. If somebody needs to sell and nobody else wants to buy it or nobody else can buy it, but I can make sense of it at X price or X terms, as an investor, as an agent trying to help clients get deals, like that's the game. Let the offers fly, baby. And Adam's just like shaking his head. He's like, dude, I can tell you how many offers you need to make. And it's 100% more than you're making right now, no matter what type
Yeah.
of investor you are.
Yeah.
So he's just chomping at the bit, being like, just freaking throw out offers. That is a direct correlation between your ability to get offers accepted. Throw out more offers.
I mean,
So,
if you're trying to buy right now, like minimum 100 offers a week. And like, I'm not even being facetious. Like,
no,
put out offers on everything and make them at your price, your terms, your convenience. Again, when you see a buyer's market like this, because like somebody in the comments is gonna be like, "You just said the stats are bad. Now you're telling me to make offers." Yes,
yeah.
right. When
You know
everybody
what? Let's
else
just
is
stop there,
running
Adam.
away,
Yes, you understand us correctly.
when everybody else is running away, it's the time for you to put in offers because you don't want to buy when we're telling you that the market's up 20%. Like,
Yeah.
stop
And like
buying the top.
pause the video right now. If that's like oh shit, I don't really get that. Go to the section of the video where we start talking about the difference between buying properties for your retirement plan and like being a full-time real estate investor. Because like just do that. Well, I'll just leave that,
Yeah,
right? Let's finish up the data. I got a sexy pink box. I had the Pink Pony Club stuck in my head.
love that.
My 3.5-year-old cousin and my 2.5-year-old daughter just ripping it up to the Pink Pony Club. It's a vibe. Now, this exactly. Let's get the. Can we get a little music in the background on the edits here? That'd be prime. But the right, we don't even need it. The that is rectangle represents the time period in which we had below 2 months of inventory in all of Waterloo Region.
Yeah,
It was 8 years straight,
yeah,
8 years straight of no inventory. That's going to cause some crazy swings. We've talked about it before, but this is just to put into perspective that we have had a crazy upcycle. I'm not saying we're going to have a crazy down cycle, but I'm just saying don't forget there are cycles to markets. It's not always up, it's not always down. If you're hitting the panic button, freaking out, you don't have a plan and you need some help, talk to professionals, talk to people you trust, sit down in a dark room and actually think about your problems and reach out to other investors that could help you guys out. But for you guys that are thinking, oh, it's going to be down, I'm going to wait, another 5 years, it's going to be gutted, the whole real estate industry and market's going to be completely changed and flipped on its head. I have bad news for you. The cycle will continue, my friends. We are going to go through this down cycle. We are probably somewhere close to seeing the end of it in terms of how far prices are going to go before more buyers start to come in. We'll talk about a few other things. The so what segment, Adam. The so what segment's the best because it's where you really just cut through the bullshit and get to exactly what matters. And the first so what is buyers, sellers, investors, real estate agents, mortgage brokers, people that are involved in the industry. Accepting the reality of the current market conditions will help you just focus on what you can control and actually making decisions. Because the amount of indecision that I've seen from agents, from sellers, from buyers, from investors, my own clients, I get it. There's a lot of uncertainty, and that emotion will cloud you from making smart judgments or being able to even make decisions at all, let alone good decisions. So just don't get lost in the sauce. Look at your current position, be very clear on what kind of risks you're willing to take, and then start taking actions, right? And the reason why I can say that with confidence is because I believe in my heart of hearts that the long-term trends will continue. Affordability long-term will diminish, renting will increase, and then margins for people in real estate landlording will shrink, right?
yep,
Broad strokes, 10, 20, 30, 50 years. If you look at any other city, any other country that has, more matured or older than us, a lot of them rent. It's not very affordable. It's very expensive. You look at any major city that's like bigger than 5 million anywhere in the world. Nobody's, screaming to the rafters about how affordable that city is,
yeah.
guys. Right? So,
Fact.
like, let's just, really understand where we're at in the world and where we're at in our market cycle. And then just like friendly reminder that every market does have cycles. And now that we're kind of getting closer to the bottom, we need more activity in real estate, period. So we're going to start to see incentives and programs. We already have, but you're going to start to see more incentives and more programs, whether, Adam, that's, new first time home buyer rules, stretching amortizations for buying new homes, or whether that's other government incentives, whether they work or not, is besides the point.
Yep.
Private industries incentivizing more activity, whether they're buying down rates, they're giving less fees on things, less restrictions on getting financing or whatever. Like we'll start to see a lot of that more creep into the market as the broader economy has more confidence to actually act in business for the next 3 to 5 years, right? Big business is making decisions, for way longer than a 3 to 5 year window, but their actions will be kind of in those increments for their incentivizations or their tightening up for restrictions. And I think you even mentioned it on one of our videos we recorded this year was, it's been a while since we've seen, less restricting on financing, on acquisition, on real estate, right?
Yeah.
For the last 10 years, it's been ratchet up, tighten, 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 more rules, more rules, more rules. This year's the first year we've really seen interest rates kind of get loosened up again. Some regulations get changed and loosened up again. It's just
Yep.
little signs that we need to kind of boost buyer and seller activity so people start playing the game again.
Yeah, and that's probably the quickest lever available to the government, right? It's just small amounts of deregulation that make it easier and more convenient to get into the market, and you could see that being an obvious solution. So, and
Yeah,
that's from the building side, that's from the purchasing side, that's from the financing side of things. There's all these different vectors where that could be a very quick and easy, lever for them to pull.
absolutely, absolutely. All right, up next, this is the section that I thought would be the most interesting, and this is just a really good discussion. So me and you could probably chat about this in the next slide. The I looked somebody in the eyes multiple times, but specifically about 2 weeks ago, and I was like, "You guys are killing it. You're doing great. You got a couple properties. You make good money. You're working full time. You got a home. Like, you just keep buying one place every 5 years. You're laughing. You guys are multimillionaires. You're laughing. That's a sexy retirement plan. You got flexibility because you got more than one or two assets. So you're not like one goes to shit. You're not screwed. You've diversified enough. You're not putting all your eggs in the real estate basket. I was like, guys, like, this is, you want to go bigger than this, then you got to blow up everything and make real estate a whole business. And then I was like, oh shit. I've had a lot of people come across my desk the last 10 years in the business where, they're coming to us and thinking, real estate investor ideas, real estate investor strategies, but they just really need a good real estate retirement plan. And I was just like, oh crap. So if you're watching this video and you're like, Zach, the idea of being able to afford enough to add one property a year for every 5 years is insane. Like, let's clarify a few misconceptions, Adam. You will need capital,
Yep.
right? I mean, freaking Kyle Ford said something not too long ago that I laughed out loud in my head because I was like, duh. It's like you need capital. Like you're not buying real estate with no money. Like
Yep.
it has to come from somewhere. So most people find it like save it themselves. That's the most common way to do it. But like nobody's buying real estate consistently with zero money. Does not happen. You need some capital. So if you're struggling to figure out how to get capital to go buy property, that's a whole different conversation. Adam can have that conversation with you. I can have that conversation with you. Especially if you want to do it within the real estate space, there's lots of ways to make money in that space, to save, to buy an asset with. But for the purpose of this video and just like this concept was like, you could go buy a duplex, triplex, or fourplex with residential A lending with 20% down right now, Adam. There's a dozen of them on the market right now that will be cash flow positive just with 20% down as is.
Yep.
Okay. So I get residential A financing, which means I probably get the best rates I can get. I'm not over levered. I'm, 80/20 at least, which isn't, ideal for a lot of people, but if you want to use leverage, that's the big benefit of real estate. So giddy up. And I'm making positive cash flow every month. So I'm going to save that to fix stuff as it breaks in the property because it inevitably will, or to increase the value of the property by making it nicer, better condition, better features, whatever it might be, which would increase the value and then long term increase the cash flow. All right. You got for one property right now. If your market grows anywhere from 2, 3, 4% a year, let's call it two because that's what I run my numbers on. 2% appreciation a year. By the end of year five, you got anywhere from 75 to 125 grand in equity just from that appreciation. No debt pay down, no cash savings, no savings from the job that you've kept because you're a good little worker. Like, all right, we got 100 to 150 grand for a down payment for another property. Neat. You're going to go do it again. And year
Yep.
five, you're going to refi that one, or you're going to take your cash savings and your savings from your job. Bang, you got your second one in year five. Then by year 10, you have two properties that are up for refinance. And if you don't want to refinance them because you don't want to acquire more, it doesn't make sense. Great. Put a new mortgage on it, plow down that debt even faster. Then the monthly cash flow goes up. So you get more savings every month. Put that in a high interest savings account, put that in, an ETF that's just earning you your 5 to 7% with a low fee. And then when you're re-up or you have enough cash for another down payment, or you want to put a big chunk down on the property's mortgage because the rates are high at the time, you have an option. But like I've done napkin math on this multiple times a year for the last 6, 7 years. And it's just like, oh, by year 10, you're probably at a million equity. You're good. You've done well. Little saver, little builder, little investor. So like this isn't a get rich quick. It's a get rich for sure. And it's just like so much more possible than what people think. If you or you and your wife or you and your husband are both working full time, or you make good money and you want to make real estate, part of your retirement plan, like this is so doable for you guys, and it doesn't have to be complicated, and you don't have to worry about going out and finding the perfect deal like a rare deal in a rare location or a rare scenario to make it work. Like this is just like very practical and straightforward and a very like no lose strategy in my opinion. It doesn't have to be fancy. It doesn't have to be big fat renovations, Adam. It doesn't have to be complicated financing scenarios or deal structures. Like this is just straight up buy decent deals at fair price that make decent cash flow. And the thing that sucks though is I think by year 10 from now, that cash flow with 20% down, straightforward deals in my market are going to be gone, right? They're
Yeah.
almost already gone. They were gone about 3 years ago, and they've just started to come back because of how extreme and quick our down cycle has been. And that's part of the reason why I wanted to bring it up in the video was like, I don't think this will be a viable strategy 10 years from now in my market as simply as it is now. So
Yeah.
I just don't see our market getting cheaper long term to the point where these deals will continue to make sense. It's why people from the GTA come to us.
And that's what I was just going to say. Like, just look at Toronto, right? It's very, very, very difficult to just purchase something 20% down and see any cash flow at all. You're probably negative cash flow no matter what you do with 20% down. And I really love the perspective you're bringing this, because I know on the channel, like we've talked a lot about like my journey and Matt's journey, and we brought a lot of investors on that are, again, full-time investors who are taking on full-time investor type risk, right? So I bought a lot of properties with no money down, 100%
Yep.
leverage, sometimes more than 100% leverage. Taking second position mortgages in order to finance the renovations, doing like vendor take back mortgages with short terms so that I could get in, do the work, and then get a real mortgage on it after the work was done. But like buying the worst property on the block, like a lot of those strategies are incredibly risk intensive, and they're very stressful. And it's very, very hard to do any of those strategies while maintaining a full time primary job.
Yeah.
And so I think that it's really good to just get the perspective on this, that if you did just buy one property every 5 years and not try to buy, 5 units every year or more, then you could significantly increase your net worth without significantly increasing your risk.
Bang.
And
Without
again,
increasing the risk, right? Because that's
that's
like
right.
people just don't understand there is risk.
Yeah. Yeah, and saving your way to a 20% down payment every 5 years becomes considerably easier the more of these that you do successfully purchase. So that primary residence that you may have right now, like if you don't have that, it's going to be difficult. But if you have the primary residence already, now we're talking about, cross collateralization. We're talking about leveraging your own property or refinancing your own property in addition to your salaries that you're saving and
Yeah.
whatever other investments you may have. So it becomes so possible once you have the primary residence to get the second one. And then from there, once you have two, they're both appreciating and they're both receiving the benefits of mortgage paydown. Plus, you have the additional income to show your next mortgage provider. You have that additional rental income to provide. Now, all of a sudden, it's actually way easier to get the third. And by doing that on such a slow time horizon every 5 years, I think it'd be very simple. It'd be a laydown to get the 20%, which is usually what I
The
find
hard
most
part.
people say is the hard part, right?
Yeah.
That's the part where everybody goes, well, where do I get, you know, $150,000? And it's like, well, the thing is, if you can re-leverage a couple of your other properties and you're still getting cash flow because somebody else is paying those mortgages for you, it becomes very, very, very doable. And I think anybody could purchase a property every five.
Yeah, and it was just like, it's the I don't know if I said it here, but I've said it a lot lately. It's like the curse of competency. It's like people that are competent that get into a position where like, I know what to do, I just don't know how to do it. It's like saving that initial down payment's tricky, or like scaling up is really tricky because you figure out how to do it at this level, but how do I take it to the next level? It's like let's just stay at the lowest kind of investor level and see that okay, we can make it work there without taking too crazy risk. Like I had to put myself in other people's shoes before. Now that I have a kid, it's like, oh, like how are you going to tell parents of one, two, or three kids that work full time jobs that you're gonna go do a full burr every 6 months? Like,
Every 6 months. Yeah.
no, you're not.
You just
Like
can't.
they're going to blow their brains out. Like that's
Yeah.
just too much, right? You have a full time job, you have a family, you have a life, and you are going to do this. Like that's crazy talk. So like take a step back. You can do super simple deals. They still cash flow in our market, and you'll be rich. You'll be rich without taking crazy risk, and you'll also be able to be a little diversified. So if you guys are like, I'm really struggling just to come up with the cash for the down payment, that's a whole different conversation. Like that's a how do I increase my income and decrease my expenses in the short term? Like, right. So if you guys have trouble with that, no problem. I'll set you straight. I'll be pretty blunt, right? But I'm happy to have that conversation if it's going to help you. And I've had a lot of these conversations lately. I just want to give people like there is a lot of ways to do this, and this is a really simple, low risk way that I'm confident most people watching the video can take advantage of. But I'm going to go through this section quick, and then the next slide in a little bit more detail, guys. Full-time real estate investors, your goals and strategies are totally fucking different. Totally
Yeah.
different. You're looking at different deals for different reasons and for different outcomes. You need a source of income to maintain your lifestyle. So a lot of people that are full-time real estate investors have an operating business within real estate that supports their real estate investing strategy in some capacity, right? Uh, I started by selling real estate. That is why I still sell real estate. I get commission income from helping clients buy and sell properties. That is a source of income that helps me maintain my lifestyle. I don't have enough rental properties or enough rental income to completely replace the income that would be required to live the lifestyle that I want to live yet. But that's why I'm focusing on acquiring now so I can either pay down my debt now or have a larger volume of properties that are giving me positive cash flow to support my lifestyle. And I've already done the math, so I kind of know where I'm going. Now, likely best to have one or two sources of income, property management, flips, maybe you're doing construction management, maybe you're wholesaling, maybe you are selling, right? Maybe you're doing cleanings. I don't like, you're probably doing something to get a paycheck still until you get to a size of real estate investor where you actually just have enough passive income, whether it's rental properties or employees in your business, where you actually just don't need to go into the office anymore. But like, I'm gonna tell you right now, it's not as big as you think, but it is going to be a lot of work to get to that because you're dealing with people, you're dealing with cycles, you're dealing with lots of big swings. Like it's very possible, but like the way you should be thinking as I just need a couple pieces to plan for retirement versus I want to quit my job and be a full-time real estate investor, two totally different things. So Adam, before we wrap up the video, I'll go through kind of like the Zack full-time real estate investor, like me, what I've done. So I sold real estate for a decade. This is my 10th year. I still sell real estate at a high level full time. That is like my full time job, right? But that full time job also allows me to know exactly what's going on in my market and gives me contacts for on market deals, off market deals, mortgage brokers, lawyers, accountants that have real estate experience, property managers. Like I am in the world of real estate inherently by my full time job, right? Now, I also put reduce expenses or increase rental income. If you're thinking, hey, I'm going to quit my salary job to go be a full time real estate investor, all right, position yourself where you've reduced your expenses accordingly, or you've already got another gig set up to cover your expenses, or maybe your husband or your wife or your partner is going to be the one that's going to keep the full-time job for a year or two as you get the full-time real estate really cooking, right? I'll put number two under there, Adam, to active business with proper tax strategy.
Yes.
I'm not an accountant. Thank God. I would that is not my jam. But if you have a good thing going and you want to make it better by getting into real estate investing full time, please, for the love of God, get some tax advice before you do it. That's all I'll
Yes.
say.
That's
Now,
so important.
I mean, 25-year-old Zach didn't give a shit. 25-year-old Zach was like, ooh, that's a big tax bill. I must be doing good. And then 26-year-old Zach was like, how do I never pay a tax bill again? Because this sucks. So
Yeah.
I'm like, I'll let everybody make their own tax decisions, but just do not underscore how important that is. Number three is testing strategies and then kind of double down on what works. There's a million different ways to skin a real estate cat. There's a lot of different ways to make money. There's even more ways to lose money in real estate, Adam, believe it or not.
Yes.
But test your strategy and then double down on what works by either making it more efficient or increasing volume, and usually both, right? So for me, it was BRRRRs, duplex, triplex, fourplex conversions, building ADUs, taking something and making it something bigger and better for less than what it was worth when it was done. Plain and simple. Now, my strategy is I'm acquiring existing multi-units or I'm going to be building new, smaller, medium-sized infill projects. I want to acquire larger existing because I can't build them yet. I'm not there, nor do I think that is the best strategy for where I'm going to be in the next year or two. So, and I also feel that the market is advantageous for people that want to buy existing properties. Financing is getting attractive. There's a big part of the market segment that's trying to offload properties because they no longer like the prospects of Southern Ontario or Canada, or maybe they've just made their money. There's always people in different parts of their cycle. So I think there is opportunity to acquire existing multi-units. I like 15 to 30 unit buildings. And then at the same time, since there is a lot of financing opportunity and there's a lot of rules and regulation that support building new as an owner and as a builder, I love building some smaller to medium-sized new stuff here in Waterloo Region. They passed a lot of laws. There's a lot of regulations that have kind of loosened up what we can and can't build because we need to build up instead of building out now. Because our city has grown quite quickly. So, I'm looking at infill projects and the money's pretty good in them. So we've tested those and now we're doubling down on which one of those work depending on our cash position, our partners, our team, our market, what kind of opportunities the market has for us. And then the next 3 to 5 years, we're just going to be refining, how is our acquisition strategy? Is it efficient? Is the market have good enough opportunities where it makes sense for us to acquire existing? Yeah. Okay, great. We'll look for those opportunities. If not, then all right, we'll focus more on the building new and we'll figure out, okay, can we build them quicker? Can we build them cheaper, but not reduce quality? Can we make acquisitions cheaper? Can we finance them cheaper? Really try and refine and systematize that down. And at the bottom part there, it's so funny. You mentioned it earlier, it's just reduce risk.
Yeah.
At the end of this, I figured out a strategy. I know how to make money for us and our partners without jeopardizing the quality of the asset long term. Okay, how do I do that but take on less risk? I will get to a point where in 5 to 10 years, I will take a lesser return if my risk is virtually zero because it's not about getting 50, 100, 200% returns anymore. It's about just not losing. It's about continuing to grow without losing. And that concept's really tough for those of you that are thinking, how do I just get started? But if you get past the how do I get started into the how do I scale, you really start to see, hey, it's about just a don't lose. There's enough opportunity just by playing in the game and not losing your shirt or going bankrupt that, you do that for 10, 20 years, you're pretty much doing whatever the heck you want. So
Especially with the nature of like refinancing and not having capital gains tax consequences to that. Like if you just don't lose and you continue to get your mortgages paid down on a monthly basis over years, like it rewards you so heavily not to lose, like on a long time horizon. Not losing is so important and it's so beneficial because it allows you to compound your gains much faster.
it'll make you sick. If any of you are out here thinking, I'm going
Yeah.
to run some numbers on this, it'll make you puke how possible it actually is.
Yeah, it's
About and like
amazing.
I went into business and investing in like a how do I win? Because that's just kind of how I was programmed. I think that's a really common thing.
Yeah.
And you very quickly, and I think once you get to the part where you have something to lose as well, it's more important to start thinking about how to not lose, right? Like
Yeah.
I started a family, I have a home. Whereas before, my wife and I could go live in a shitty one-bedroom basement apartment for a couple of years and grind it out, no problem. And to be clear, I'm willing to do that again if I have to. I know how to do that. I know I'm capable of it. But the pain of taking that step back is going to be way worse than the pleasure of taking a big step forward. And in order to take that big step forward, take on unnecessary risk. That's just not worth it for me anymore. So Adam can talk to the cows come home about, active businesses and passive businesses, the different ways you can make money in real estate, the different types of investment properties. But I wanted to just finish the segment off by like getting your mind as an investor on like, am I going to make this my full-time career? And when I say full-time career, I mean like this is your life. Like real estate's my life. I like that too. Like that makes me happy because I work with my best friends, I work with awesome clients, and I get to have control over my results. That excites me. That's what I want out of my life and in my career right now. But if you're like, hey, I got a good thing going, I like my job, I like my career, I like where it's heading, but I also think real estate's a good piece for my retirement financially and I believe in it. Okay, let's have that conversation as opposed to, all right, what types of deals and businesses do you need to get into as a full time investor? So if you're thinking, hey, Zach, I need access to deals or I need some guidance or I just need some resources, I know what to do, I just don't know how to do it. Like, let's hop on a quick call. My email address is there. I get a couple calls every single week from you guys and girls that are checking out our stuff on the real estate channel here. If you just want to kind of be, lurking in the shadows, that's okay. We see you. Get on the investor hot list, Adam. Take a look at our deals. Let me know if you have questions about the market or you need some contacts. Don't be shy. We're happy to share. But I'm really curious to see kind of what the summer brings. I expect it to be a little slow, but I just want to see if Waterloo Region Real Estate is reacting to the opportunity that's on the table, and if we do have any changes coming down the pipeline with interest rates, with economic development, with now politics and policy changing, with everything that's going on. Um, I think it's going to be quiet, but I think there'll be some signs before the end of the year on which way the next 1 to 2 years in real estate is going to go here. So if you guys have questions in the meantime, email us. If not, I'm shamelessly going to plug the Canadian Real Estate Channel. You got to subscribe. You got to hit the like. Me and Adam have a good time. We chat on here for 30 minutes or an hour, but there's a lot of videos on in the vault on the Canadian Real Estate Channel on pretty much anything you guys need. I'm a sucker. I'm a YouTube junkie, so like I look it up all the time, and I'm like, oh, I
Yeah.
wonder what this guy said back then. Like, I'm a little bit of a psycho like that. But I appreciate being able to come on, and it's easy to chop it up with you, Adam. So thanks for having me on this month.
Awesome. Well, thanks for coming back, Zach. I appreciate all the insights, and I really appreciate you zooming out and taking this month's update in the context of a 10-year lens, as well as sharing the perspective of the differences between a full-time investor and somebody looking to just simply retire as a multimillionaire, which is not
Yeah,
that hard to do if you buy one every five. So thanks again. And hey, thanks for the dinosaurs this week, man. We didn't even talk about that, but
Berlin, baby. If you
that
don't
is
like
the
dinosaurs,
all-star.
I don't like you. Dinosaurs are cool no matter what. My 2.5-year-old. Oh, then we'll end with this. This is a great shout out. Okay,
All
parents
right.
out there, if you need something cool to do in Waterloo Region, the Children's Museum, downtown Kitchener. I'm not even getting paid for this. Jesus Christ, free
Dang.
ad. King and Queen Children's Museum. They do a dinosaur show at 11 o'clock on Saturdays. They have the big 15-foot dinosaur that comes out. They got a paleontologist.
All right.
Hell yeah. Me and Violet were roaring at the top of our lungs singing If You're Happy You Know It with Maverick on Saturday. And best case, they got AC in there, baby. So you can stay cool without getting a sunburn on
Dang.
Saturdays with the kiddos. So I'll end it with that. I love dinosaurs. Check it out if your parents want it.
All right. Well, there it is, the Dinosaur Museum, the Kids Museum. You guys have been too busy thinking about what you could do instead of whether you should do it. That's a Jurassic Park quote, and
That's a Jurassic Park quote.
I'll end I'll end the video with that. So thanks, Zach. We'll see you back here next month. And as
Cheers,
always,
guys.
I hope you guys are making offers. Cheers.